Hello everyone, my name is Kimberly Gonzalez and this is my course project. One of the species I've chosen to speak about is the Florida gar. So these guys are a pretty small species of gar, and their range is generally just in Florida. However, they sometimes overlap and will be found in some pieces of Georgia. They are a fully freshwater fish, and they are often found in lakes, streams, canals, things like that. They typically stay around areas that are sandy and muddy, with lots of vegetation, just because that is the camouflage that they have adapted to wear. So they have black spots all over their body. It's pretty irregular. There's no specific size for these spots. Their average size is about 34 inches. They can reach well over 4 feet. And they do have very sharp teeth on both upper and lower jaws. And a very broad snout. They also have a shorter snout than most gars do as well. And you'll see later on they're very closely related to the short-nosed gar. So that is another species with a relatively short snout. The pictures up here, you can see an adult Florida gar as well as the map showing their distribution. The next species I wanted to highlight are peacock gudgeons. They are one of my favorite fish in the aquarium hobby. While they are a small fish, they have a elongated body. Males also develop nuchal humps on their forehead, so that is a term for a very pronounced forehead. They're not sure if there's a reason for this in the males or if it is just something that has developed as maybe something that helps in courting females or things like that. It is not known why. Their base scales are a bluish color. However, they do get pale yellow bellies. All of their fins are banded with yellow. They have some red stripes going vertically down the body. And females will actually have a thin black stripe going through fins. And that is one way to distinguish male versus female without a nuchal hump. And one really cool thing about their coloration is their eye spot in the back, which earns them the term peacock gudgeon. So that black spot right here around the tail is their eye spot. And that has several uses. It can be used as a confusion mechanism for predators, thinking that that is the eye and the head of the fish, whereas it is actually their tail, and they may survive an attack if they are just bitten on their tail rather than if they were bitten anywhere near their head. These fish live in the streams of eastern Papua New Guinea, in the northern side of what are called the Owen Stanley Range. This is a mountainous region, and they are found in several of these small streams there. Now, this species specifically is the only true freshwater gudgeon, so they're often called gobies as well. However, it is not their true term. But other fish in this genus or in this family actually are usually saltwater fish, or majority of their life is spent in saltwater. However, these guys are truly freshwater fish. Here you can see, as I said before, the short-nosed gar, which is over here. These are extremely closely related to the Florida gars, and these are their common name is actually just gudgeon. Their species is gobio gobio, but they are related to peacock gudgeons. Peacock gudgeons are actually the only, and let me go back one slide here, they are the only species in this genus. So there are no extremely closely related fish, but in the family there are several species of gudgeon or gobies. Now, for their habitats, we spoke a little bit about that before, but peacock gudgeons live in what looks like places like this. So, very clear, running, fresh water. They are a cave-dwelling species, so they will be found up in between the nooks and crannies of all these rocks here, whereas the Florida gar prefers a lot more of open space. They're larger fish, and they are found usually around the surface of the water, and like I said, they need not only very pretty still water, but they also like a lot of vegetation, shadows, things like that, because those dark splotches on them help them blend in very well to things like this, where there are a lot of shadows and vegetation and sandy floors. This is life history of the Florida gar. They are a spawning fish, so males and females will actually gather in a shallow area where they will spawn. Females will drop eggs, and males will go and fertilize the eggs. Oops, sorry. And the eggs will be fertilized by several males. It is not a one-on-one kind of thing. Whereas it's different in the gudgeons, and you will see after this slide. So, as I said before, these guys can get pretty large. They'll reach over 4 feet, and can live about 20 plus years. These fish are ambush predators as adults, so they actually will strike very quickly at something on the surface of the water, shake it, kill it, and then proceed to swallow it whole. As adults, they eat crustaceans and a lot of fish, but juveniles will eat a lot of insects and zooplankton. The peacock gudgeon is an egg-laying fish. Males will court females and nudge them into their caves. This is where the female will lay her eggs, and the male will actually go in and fertilize after her. Once she is done, the female has no job other than that, so she leaves, or the male kicks her out of the cave, and he actually will proceed to take care of all parental tasks. So he will fan the eggs, he will guard them, and he will watch them until they hatch, and they can lay up to about 100 eggs, so that is a lot of babies. However, not all of them will make it. He will stay a few days after hatching, and once the fry begin to swim on their own, he is no longer a part of their life. They will reach sexual maturity approximately 6 to 8 months, and they can live 4 to 5 years. These are small fish reaching only up to 3 inches, usually less. They are omnivorous. However, there are not many sources that show what kind of vegetation they eat, but they definitely eat a lot of insects, larvae, and smaller crustaceans, mainly smaller shrimp and copepods. When it comes to conservation, the Florida gar does not have many restrictions when it comes to fishing here in Florida. There are some size restrictions, but it is a little bit controversial. Some websites say there is a certain size, others say there is not. There is no season for them either. It is whenever you wish to go fish them. Like many native fish here in Florida, it is illegal to possess them without proper licensing. So that is one thing that definitely has to be kept up with. Now, the gudgeon, it is not in North American territory, so it is a little bit harder to find restrictions on them in terms of wild-caught fish and such. I'm not sure how it works in Papua New Guinea with restrictions to catch them. However, they are a large part of the aquarium trade, so I assume that they are allowed to be traded as such. A lot of the ones you will find in the store are actually wild caught, and so that is something to be aware of. If you are getting these fish for your aquarium, they may come with some parasites or diseases to look out for. Touching up a little bit more on that, both the gudgeon and the gar deal with parasites and fungal infections. One of the main parasites we see in aquariums is ick, which is what this picture is of. They're an external parasite and can kill the fish if left untreated. However, it takes a while to get that bad, so it is something that is usually treated with ease. So that is definitely one thing to look out for. However, specifically in peacock gudgeons, one of the big diseases that they deal with is hole in head disease. It is sometimes very hard to treat because if it is not caught early on, it will kill your fish almost within a couple weeks. So that is one thing specifically to the peacock gudgeons. The gar are pretty hardy fish. They have very hard scales, so they don't tend to have a lot of serious external parasites, but they may have some internal parasites, so that is one thing to look out for. In conclusion, I believe that the peacock gudgeon deserves more conservation efforts in terms of its wild populations. They are constantly being caught for the pet trade, and I believe that they are of utmost importance to their ecosystem, so I think maybe efforts should go more towards maybe starting a captive bred line somewhere in the world, and maybe in several parts of the world, so that they will no longer have to be wild caught. Also, doing wild caught fish also gets other fish trapped sometimes. So many times you're not just catching the peacock gudgeon, but several other species as well, and we do not know the extent of that damage, especially since this is not a fish that is found in the US, so I cannot speak too much on that topic. Both of these fish would be pretty easy to collect. As I said, peacock gudgeons are a very common fish in the pet trade, and Florida gars can be caught here in Florida. If this aquarium will not be in Florida, I'm sure the licensing is not going to be too difficult, and even then, Florida is pretty good about allowing aquariums and museums and teaching tools such as those. They're very good about allowing them permits. I believe that the Florida gar are steady in population and numbers, and they're very closely monitored by FWC, so I really do not think that those populations are something we have to really be careful of in the wild. At least they are almost everywhere here in Florida. If you go to any spring, most freshwater canals or freshwater systems here, you will see them very easily. These are my sources, and thank you so much for listening.